I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And you may recall when I was in Virginia this past spring, covering the case involving Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, it was a bitter, bitter battle. I mean, they revealed a lot of things that you never really hear A-list celebrities reveal. I mean, it's part of the lives that they live, right? They try to protect their public personas, and they don't want to air their dirty laundry. And, you know, they're normal people like everyone else. They have their issues, they have their problems. They just try to keep them hidden from the media and keep it away from the public, keep it away from fans. And in the Johnny Depp trial, we saw how it all came out. One of the things that was described by Amber Heard, you may recall, Johnny Depp and others testified about it as well, was this ride on their private jet cross country where Amber Heard accused Johnny Depp of horrific things that obviously the jury didn't believe, but it was like, and there were recordings also of Johnny Depp on that plane. It was like, what is wrong with these people? You're on a private jet, for goodness sake. You've got all the money in the world. What is going on? And a lot of us just kind of talked it up. Okay, it's Johnny Depp, it's Amber Heard, whatever. It's the exception, not the rule. But now, let me tell you about another private jet ride. Not Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and all their kids coming back on this long, long ride. You may or may not know, but right now they are embroiled in bitter litigation. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, they're fighting over a lot of things, including a winery. And, you know, high stakes because it's a lot of money. But in the latest cross-complaint filed by Angelina Jolie, the allegations that she makes about what happened on one of these flights where it's her, Brad, and the family, absolute horrific when you think about what she is accusing Brad Pitt of. Now, Brad Pitt is denying this, but let me take you to the filing, the allegations. I'm going to read them for you. You'll hear them, and tell me if it sounds more like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard than what you thought life was like for Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. After the flight took off, Jolie approached Pitt and asked him what was wrong. Pitt accused her of being too deferential to the children and verbally attacked her. An hour and a half later, Pitt abruptly walked over to Jolie, demanding, "Come here," and directed her to the back of the plane. He pulled her into the bathroom and began yelling at her. Pitt grabbed Jolie by the head and shook her, and then grabbed her shoulders and shook her again before pushing her into the bathroom wall. Pitt then punched the ceiling of the plane numerous times, prompting Jolie to leave the bathroom. As she exited, one of their children asked, "Are you okay, Mommy?" Pitt yelled back, "No, Mommy's not okay," and started deriding Jolie with insults. When one of the children verbally defended Jolie, Pitt lunged at his own child, and Jolie grabbed him from behind to stop him. To get Jolie off his back, Pitt threw himself backwards into the airplane seats, injuring Jolie's back and elbow. The children rushed in and all bravely tried to protect each other. Before it was over, Pitt choked one of their children and struck another in the face. Some of the children pleaded with Pitt to stop. They were all frightened. Many were crying. With nowhere to go and to avoid Pitt's wrath, Jolie and the children sat still and silent under blankets. Nobody dared to go to the bathroom. Pitt periodically emerged from the back of the plane to yell and swear at them. At one point, he poured beer on Jolie. At another, he poured beer and wine on the children. After many tense hours, Pitt finally fell asleep. Okay. You know, these are allegations, right? You can take it with a grain of salt. But let me put this up on the screen. What happened next, according to Jolie, in what she's filed with the court. Having been alerted to Pitt's conduct by a third-party witness, the FBI launched an investigation. After interviewing various witnesses, the FBI agent who conducted the investigation concluded that the government had probable cause to charge Pitt with a federal crime for his conduct that day, and the agent prepared a probable cause statement for referral to the United States Attorney's Office for prosecution. Well, you think about what we just read, like you're choking your child, you're punching a child in the face. Sorry, if you're anybody else, you're getting arrested. You're getting arrested for that. You don't get a pass for choking your child and punching them in the face. So why didn't he get arrested? Let's bring in the think tank. Let's get through all this. Join us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. In Los Angeles, California, where all this stuff seems to happen, former federal prosecutor and the author of the new book, Harvard to Hashtag, My Journey from Big Law to Business Owner, Nima Rahmani's with us. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series, Trapped with Ms. Arias, Kirk Nurmi. Great to see everyone. Where you been? Anyway, all right. Eklund Mercy, why isn't Brad Pitt, or why wasn't he when this happened, if the FBI is investigating, why wasn't he arrested? If he's accused of, if there's probable cause to believe that he punched a child in the face and choked a child.
He's rich, he's famous, and he's Brad Pitt. In the case, like for the purposes of judicial economy, even though we have probable cause, the return on investment on the time, the money, the energy, the resources needed to prosecute a case like that would be astronomical. So I don't think it would make fiscal sense for them to pursue. So I can understand why, although they do have probable cause, doesn't mean that you have to go through with the charges. So I can see why they didn't press with any criminal charges in this case.
All right, Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor. If in fact these allegations are true, that the FBI agent had probable cause, why would the U.S. attorney turn a blind eye to child abuse?
It's prosecutorial discretion, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but look, it's a federal case because it's on a private jet. Otherwise, these cases would always go state. You don't typically have these types of domestic violence assault cases in federal court. It just doesn't happen. And the reason the feds didn't get involved, these are my former buddies at the U.S. Attorney's Office in L.A. where I live. They don't want to get involved in a nasty family law case. You know, the last thing you want is
no, but it's different. Isn't it different? Like, okay, Angelina versus Brad, Amber versus Johnny. No, I'm talking about the kids. I'm talking about that's a different ball game.
But before this incident in 2016, they were already involved in this terrible custody dispute. Angelina is not wanting to give joint physical custody. They have joint legal custody. So they're already embroiled in this family law case, even though it's an arbitration with a private judge. So the feds know this, and they're concerned. Look, the allegations may be righteous, they may be true, that Angelina is hijacking the criminal justice system for another purpose. That's the reason prosecutors don't like to get involved in these types of cases, and that's why they made the decision they did.
But if you had a third-party witness and an FBI agent, probable cause, Kirk, call me crazy. Call me crazy. I know the feds are very busy, very, very busy all the time. They got all these big deals. I know they don't have 3 audio recordings and 2 videotapes and 5 confessions in this case. But we're talking about child abuse, Kirk. How do you turn a blind eye if this is true, again, the FBI agent who investigated it based upon a tip from a third party, not from Angelina, but from a third party, and you got child abuse, how on earth do you turn a blind eye to child abuse?
Well, you know, Vinny, you're not crazy because you've keyed on the operative word, if. If these things happen, and one of the things that Nima mentioned was the idea that there was a custody dispute, there's a divorce, those kind of things, and prosecutors, cops, FBI agents, they all know that in the midst of these divorces, allegations like this can be falsely made to leverage in some sort of resolution of the marriage, custody, property, what have you. And this is why we see this filing coming up again, right? So because she wants some kind of leverage on a piece of property they own. My guess is, and I don't know if they've attached an affidavit to this effect, what basis do they have for making this claim that this happened and then there was this probable cause statement and prosecution was denied? Because I disagree with that. I don't think you get a free pass because you're rich and your name is Brad Pitt if you're choking children. I don't think it works that way. I think the reality is there was serious doubts about the veracity of these allegations, and that's
are you doubting? Wait, let me ask you, because this is important, an important difference. Are you doubting that the FBI investigated this and found probable cause, as alleged in these papers, or are you doubting that the incident happened?
Both. I mean, where's the proof that the federal agent submitted the probable cause affidavit? Where is that? Is that in the document? No. Is there a copy of that? No. How
would the FBI admit it, Nima? Would the FBI admit it? Like, if this actually happened, should there be a paper trail?
Angelina tried to get this investigative file. The government said no. She had to file a separate lawsuit because the government didn't comply with the Freedom of Information Act. So ultimately, what they produced was a redacted, heavily redacted copy of the investigative file. So I don't know what's in there. I'm not privy to that. But again, if Angelina cared about this, she would have filed in 2016 or within the statute of limitations, the 2-year statute here in California for her. Obviously, the minors, that doesn't begin to run until they turn 18. But the question is this. You now filed a counterclaim in a civil case. Procedurally, let's talk about this. That's barred by the statute of limitations. Is this really about filing a meritorious claim, or is this about dirtying your ex-husband? Because this is all subject to a motion to strike. What's the relevance here? They're fighting over a $164 million chateau.
I get all that, but I get back to, so Eklund Mercy, let me ask you, if we were in, I don't know, state court, maybe in Georgia somewhere, and there was an officer who showed up at a house and found probable cause to believe that the husband had choked and hit a child in that house, what normally happens in those circumstances?
Well, if there is, just like Kurt and Nima said, if there is a pending family law case, a lot of the times prosecutors will keep it to the family law case. They'll deal with it in the parenting plan. Because when we look at Brad Pitt, he doesn't have any criminal history. If they were to prosecute him, if he were to, what would he get, like probation? So it's better to just go with the civil right because you're going to get a resolution. At the end of the day, they are trying to get married. They're trying to separate assets. They're trying to do visitation plans and parenting plans and things of that nature. Ms. Jolie's attorneys are just going full speed ahead. They're just trying to get it in. Just like that, Mr. Pitt's attorney is also going to do the same thing. So although we see Ms. Jolie's response first, we're going to see other stuff from Mr. Pitt's attorneys as well. So it happens. It happens, unfortunately. Instead of having 2 cases, they just keep it to the civil case.
I think that's nuts. And when you're talking about child abuse, I think it's nuts. Let me ask you, Nima, in this case, we're talking about, what happened to the children here and how that impacts everything else. At the end of the day, when you're trying to figure out the truth, you would trust what the children would say, right? So if an FBI agent actually investigated this, they would likely speak with the children, who would be the victims here, as well as whoever this third-party witness is.
Absolutely. The children are the most important. So we talked about criminal case, civil, family law. The one we haven't talked about, the most important one, is the family law case. Whenever anything like this happens, there's a referral to social workers. They step in and they interview the children. If there's a viable claim and the children corroborate the abuse, guess what? Social workers come, they take the kids. And there's a 4th type of case that happens here in LA, the dependency case. And that's when they take the kids from both parents and maybe put them in foster care or put them with a relative. So the fact that that didn't happen, even though a referral has to be made as a matter of law, does speak volumes, Vinny.
All right. Again, Brad Pitt saying it didn't happen. But Kirk Nurmi, what's being described here is this worse than what was described by Amber Heard on her plane ride? Which, if you're looking at the scale of which one was more disturbing, which one?
Oh boy, that's hard to say. I guess we'd have to go with the accusation Ms. Jolie's making because children were involved.
Exactly, you got it right. You got it right, Kirk. You got it right tonight. That was a.
But Vandy, I got to tell you, I think they both have the same weight of credibility with me. They're both bogus.
Okay, well, you know, and again, we don't know. We have no idea, and nothing was ever done. And I was just concerned that there was like a different tier of scrutiny and justice because it's Brad Pitt and they're worried about PR, when at the end of the day, law enforcement should only care about protecting the victims. And in this case, the alleged victims were children. I don't know. All right, enough with that.